and the last letter Hey is so large that underneath it, it has the word Adonai spelled out. So this is a feature of this particular Siddur, helping us to read, etc., etc. Now, my good friend Hannah is asking, why are they writing out the word Aleph, Dalet, Nun, Yud? You can write out that word. It's not the same as the Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. And then they have another reading spelling out the word Adonai. Are you ready for this one? Spelled Yud, Aleph, Hey, Dalet, Vav, Nun, Hey, Yud. That type of writing I've never seen before. But that's because of Mizrahim and Sfaradim who pronounce their Hebrew a certain type of way, and that's why it's reflected that way. I don't know for a fact, but I have a feeling that's so. The English translation, Baruch, has the word Hashem. So they stick with the common English word Hashem for the English translation. Yeah, well, no, this is a good attempt. I can tell you right now, but I can see for the first time I've ever seen where the Yud Hey Vav Hey, the last letter Hey is very large, and they write out the Aleph Dalet Nun Yud, and then alongside of it, they have the pronunciation of this particular Mizrahi or Sephardi tradition. Now, for people like Yirmiyahu who have my Facebook linkage, why don't you look at the Facebook and you'll see a Spanish-speaking person and the singing of the Atikva in Espanol. I'm saying to myself, what's this Espanol singing with a Spanish program? I suspect it's either one, evangelical Christians who are into Hebrew, or possibly number two, what the state of Israel is claiming, that over 22% of these people of Latin America are actually converso background, which means there's a Jewish background, something in their background, and maybe that's the reason why. I've never heard that tikva sung in Spanish. So if you want to hear it sung in Spanish, get to my Facebook and you'll hear the singing in Spanish, and then they interject some Hebrew as well. That's it. The more you hear Spanish with Hebrew, the more you're going to have Ladino come back again. In fact, it is being reimmersed, and people like Baruch already know some Spanish, I think. I know some Ladino songs. Yeah, well, Ladino is Judeo Spanish. Yes. So I'm told. I'm also told if you know Spanish, you can't follow Judeo, you can't follow Ladino completely. There's a good 20% of Ladino which a Spanish speaker cannot understand. It's like Shakespeare, understanding Shakespeare in English. I guess so, yeah. And I guess the thing that really caps the whole thing for me personally is that Cervantes, who is their most important writer, wrote in Ladino. He apparently was a converso. So go figure this out. And the one who told me that was one of the Spanish instructors back in the day when I taught full time here, and she was here full time as well. All these instructors are now retired, and the only one that still continues is I. At the 2 o'clock hour, there's going to be Faizo, yeah, he's going to be visiting. You know who he is, Yirmiyahu. Apparently, the Nevada College newspaper is going to run a profile on me, and Faizo offered to do so, and he's going to come visiting, and he'll interview me, and he'll have a story about me in the school paper. It's a nice little honor. I don't necessarily need these things, but it's nice to have some kind of recognition that way. All right, people, that's basically where it's at. And then finally, in 2 weeks' time, there'll be an instructor visiting the classroom. Every instructor has to be evaluated, I guess. He's a young man. I don't know who he is. He'll be visiting on that Thursday, March, whatever date it is. And if all of you will come, I hope, Ellie, you'll make it as well. So we'll at least have some presentation by everybody. And it'll be March 26th. March 26th is a Thursday. When is the spring break? Do you have any idea? April 5th is the spring break. Okay, we're going to have a spring break before April 5th. Pesach itself, the first Seder, is on Wednesday night, April 1st. Second Seder, that's the first Seder night. Pesach itself is on April 2nd. And then you got boom, 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 boom. Or the Chol HaMoed Pesach is on Tuesday, April 7th. I'll have classes then. April 7th is spring break. Is the 7th going to is it spring break? Yeah, all right, then people, we get into the last class on March 26th then. No, that's not so. There's also March 31st, which is A Tuesday, you're searching for chametz on that day so you can come to class. You'll find chametz here under your seat. Clean it up. Okay, we'll have class then. Don't look disappointed, Baruch. All I know is we're going to have we'll have a class on Chol Moed. But the day that they're going to visit is on Thursday, March 26th, March 21st, and March 31st. You can go to classes if you have other classes, and then they're ready by, well, the evening of April 1st already is the first Seder. Okay, we'll talk more about that later. All right, dear people, what I need to really do is more Hebrew with you. And then remind me at the end of class hour, I want to say a few things about the Purim holiday, which I did not say to you. And just remind me to call that to your attention. It's actually Hebrew phrases which are found with Purim itself, which will help us with our knowledge of Hebrew anyway. Okay, where we left off last time, and I also asked you at your convenience at home to write out these types of exercises so that I can tell this person that we do writing in class. He wants to know what kind of exercise we do, and I'll tell him that we're doing the exercises for the book itself. Not that it's that important, but for them it's necessary for me to have a record like that. So I'm going to ask you to do that and do this at home. You have the book in front of you, and people like Yirmiyahu, you can look back on the page, how to conjugate, etc. When it comes to the verbs, by the way, the rule of thumb, always vocalize the verb, always vocalize the verb. And Baruch will naturally ask the question, well, we're learning Sephardic Hebrew, and the Sephardim in Hebrew don't vocalize anything. So why do we have to vocalize? The reason is because when you write unvocalized Hebrew, the same spelling can be masculine and it can be feminine. If I write on the board the following letters like this, how would you know whether I have male in mind or female in mind? If I had a female in mind, it would be Bona, with a kamatz on the. If I had the masculine in mind, it would be Bonet. So the difference is the Sego versus the Kamatz. Without vocalization, without Nikud, you can't tell the difference whether Bonet is Bonet or Bonet is Bona. That's why the rule of thumb at UCLA, everywhere they teach Hebrew, first year, second year, whatever, it's always with vocalization of the verbs itself. And then something I told you multiple times, and one person would say that's all Garber does. He's emphasizing grammar, 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 grammar. Where's the Hebrew, 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 spoken Hebrew, Hebrew, Hebrew? Aren't we going to get any of that? The answer is yes, 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 yes. But I cannot help but say to you that the Hebrew present tense does not exist. If I have the word boneh by itself, how would you know it's a verb? It could easily be a builder. The Hebrew word for a builder is a boneh. Somebody who builds is a boneh. If your builder happens to be a woman, I guess, then you'll call her a bonah. Well, that's supposed to be the verb, isn't it, in the present tense? The answer is yes, it is the verb in the present tense. But Hebrew doesn't really have a verb in the present tense. So the word boneh can either be hu boneh, could be he builds, or he is a builder. He bonah, she builds, or she is a builder. And in English, if I say she's a builder, that's a noun already. If I say she builds, that's a verb. So English isn't like Hebrew. Hebrew is a Semitic language. Hebrew, at least the language Hebrew, does not have, quote, a verb. And so you need to understand that. And again, I'm telling you, the Hebrew is a Benoni. That's what it says. In Hebrew, to identify the present tense, you call it a Benoni. It's in between, it dangles, which means it's not a verb. A verb is in the avar, that which has been passed, avar, or the verb will be yet to be, which is called the atid, the atid. So the Benoni is a so-called dangling verb. It's not verbs, that's why it's called Benoni, and so it goes. Yirmiyahu? You mean builder like construction worker? Any kind of builder. Oh, okay. Any kind of builder. Yeah, a construction worker comes to mind, or I'm not a construction worker, but when I put something together, I guess you can call me a bonet. Anyway, these are just words. Shomer is a word I like to use. The shomer word is one who watches over, and shomer could be the verb, who's shomer, he watches or he's a watchman. Oh, then you have the following word. As I came to class today, I had Ellie telling me his mom is going to come to work at a restaurant, etc. And at one restaurant he worked at, they want him to be a mashgiach. And I salute Ellie by saying, I'm not a mashgiach. Don't even give me that responsibility. But the restaurant people said, what's your problem? You're a religious person. You know how to watch over. I am not a mashgiach. The word mashgiach means one who observes. That's all it means. Let me get my pen open here. It does not mean what would you call it? An inspector, a mashgiach, and one who has the credentials to inspect, I guess, in this case, in a religious sense. Mashgiach happens to be the verb in the hifio conjugation, which we don't know yet. That explains why there is that slow patach and these long chirik, as you see that word mashgiach. Otherwise, the hifio in the present tense, so-called, the word would be matchil. That will be the form that you'll study. And from that form of a shleimim, so it appears that it really isn't, because you have a chet there, is how we formulate the so-called hifio. But a mashgiach is an observer, a supervisor, probably is the best word. But you have to be trained for it. You just can't be a mashgiach. So in a sense, ani mashgiach, I'm observing or supervising, but then the actual word as a noun, I guess, is more than just observing. You have to be regulated. You have to be qualified. It's a little different. So I salute my students by saying, excuse me, don't give me this job, which says something about the owners. They have to be extremely careful. But you guys are the buyers, so how would you know what goes on over there? And what's notorious, by the way, is that kosher section in Rouse. I'm almost sure it's a kosher, kosher, kosher. Connor wants to know why. Because I once asked, who's the mashgiach? I met the mashgiach. And then I saw a Farsi. I said, okay, this is legitimate. The Farsi, but they don't play around. They literally don't. You take them seriously. They take themselves seriously. And the mashgiach at Ralph's there, at least a couple of years ago, was a Sephardi mashgiach. Anyway, the word mashgiach. It's a good word to know, mashgiach. And matchil, that's what we're doing here. Anachnu matchilim, we're beginning to study Hebrew. Okay, let's get back to our Hebrew now. We're doing verbs right now, and the verbs that we finished with are found on page 88. We did the exercises on them, I believe, and now we're starting the new verb here, the Yud Dalet Ayin. Okay, what she has here is the first column, again, is the Gizra. Let me see what title she gives to it. Or the shorish of the verb, I should say, not the Gizra. Okay, the Yud Dalet Ayin is the shorish, is the root of the verb. And notice that I mentioned from last time a few times already, if a verb is going to have a Yud in the first letter, it's a Pei Yud verb. If a verb is going to have a laryngeal letter, either in a Pei Apoel, first root letter, Ayin Apoel, second root letter, or Lamed Apoel, third root letter, you identify the family of that particular verb also by that laryngeal letter. The shorish means the root. Gizra is the family. And let me make sure you understand what I'm doing with that. There is in her table where she introduces the verbs that particular language. So I need you to see it again. I believe it's found in unit number 1. Or you can look at page 66.